everybody come on up. We had a really good meeting, and to answer your direct question, we have a deal. And I think it's really important. We've all agreed that none of us got all that we wanted. I clearly didn't get all I wanted. They gave more than I think maybe they were inclined to give in the first place. But this reminds me of the days we used to get an awful lot done up in the United States Congress. We actually worked with them. We got bipartisan deals. Bipartisan deals means compromise. One of the things that I've made clear, I've signed on, and I'm going to let them give you the detail because you can ask them, and I will talk to you all later, next hour or two. But I promise you, I'm not going away with what they've proposed, and they've given me their word as well. So where I come from, that's good enough for me. So I'm going to turn it over to the two chairs here, and I'll talk to you all a little bit later.
Have you been reading about the building collapse in Miami?
I have. I've spoken with the mayor. I've spoken with the congresswoman, and I'll have more to say about that.
Mr. President, what's the plan to pay for this? Are you committed to the two-track system, Mr. President? Are you committed to a two-track system?
Yeah. Sure. There is going to be a two-track system.
And are you confident that you're going to have all of the Democrat support in the Senate?
Okay? I'm not confident of anything except that trust me.
But there will be a reconciliation bill? There will be a reconciliation bill, Mr.
Okay, I'm not going to answer that one, okay? I have a little different view on that one. Listen, I appreciate the fact that the president came out today to express what we all believe, which is we didn't get everything we wanted, but we came up with a good compromise that's going to help the American people. This is about infrastructure. Every president over the past 4 or 5 presidents has talked about doing a big infrastructure package. You may recall that President Trump proposed a $2 trillion infrastructure package. Today we are announcing the framework for an historic investment in infrastructure. This is roads and bridges, but also lots of other kinds of infrastructure, including broadband, including our water system and our rail system, all of which is good for the economy. This will lead to more efficiency in our economy, higher productivity, more economic growth. This is about the long term. And it's something that traditionally has been very bipartisan. And I'm pleased to see today we were able to come together on a core infrastructure package. This is not non-infrastructure items, without new taxes, and with the commitment from Republicans and Democrats alike that we're going to get this across the finish line. So I appreciate my colleagues behind me. This was a team effort. Everybody was equally involved. Kirsten Sinema did a great job leading the effort, and I want to now ask her to say a few words.
Thank you, Rob. You know, there are many who say that bipartisanship is dead in Washington, D.C. and across this country. But this historic agreement today between Republicans and Democrats in the Senate and with the President of the United States shows that when a group of people who are committed with shared values to solving the problems and challenges our country faces, we can use bipartisanship to solve these challenges. As Rob said, and as the President said, no one got everything they wanted in this package. We all gave some to get some, because what we did was put first the needs of our country. This does represent a historic investment in our country's infrastructure, and it meets the needs of folks who live from Virginia out to Arizona. It invests in green energy and climate, recognizing the changing nature of our country and our future. It invests in broadband, in our power grid, in our structures. And we are delighted to go back to the Hill and begin earning more support from both Republicans and Democrats to get this bill across the finish line.
An infrastructure deal of $1 trillion is there for the taking. You just need to get involved and lead.
Fellow progressives say that they won't back that bipartisan bill unless they know that their priorities will be covered in what you are working on. The moderates, whose votes are essential to passing what you come up with, Senator Sanders, are reluctant to support a big price tag.
The bipartisan proposal provides spending in some very important areas: roads, bridges, water systems, and that's good. The amount of money that they are proposing is about 1/4 of what the president talked about in terms of new money. That's not adequate.
With regard to the $6 trillion package, the list goes on, and that's the problem. I mean, it's not about infrastructure. It's kind of a $6 trillion grab bag of progressive priorities. Ours is about core infrastructure, and it is paid for.
$6 trillion being spent through reconciliation is more money than we spent to win World War II. Infrastructure to me is roads and bridges and ports, and electrical vehicles are fine. I don't want to raise taxes to pay for it.
In this proposal, which their bipartisan proposal like ours is still in flux, they're talking, some people at least are talking about raising the gas tax or a fee on electric cars, or maybe privatization of infrastructure. Those, to my mind, are bad ideas.
Hello, YouTube family. Thanks for joining me on this video. What you saw there at the beginning was this mishmash of the announcement of the infrastructure, the bipartisan infrastructure deal, along with the backtracking of Republicans and Senator Bernie Sanders staying true to form and looking for a better deal for Americans. And happy 4th of July weekend. I've got my 4th of July background up for the videos this weekend. And let's get underway. Biden, along with a group of Republicans and Democrats, announced a bipartisan agreement has been reached on infrastructure, which is, as you can see, not necessarily the case. Biden later clarified that Democrats would marry the bipartisan bill with a reconciliation bill to pass the rest of the infrastructure agenda. Republicans began immediately backtracking and rebuking Biden, saying that he was basically breaking the deal and that they had no clue that this was going to happen, even though they've been in talks for weeks. And without a doubt, this came up. We'll go into it later. The bipartisan bill addresses roads and bridges, public transportation, passenger and freight rail, along with electric vehicle infrastructure, clean drinking water, broadband internet, among other things. Those are the big issues on the bipartisan infrastructure bill. It's nearly $1 trillion. That's over 5 years. Democrats want to roll back some of the Trump tax cuts to pay for infrastructure. Republicans want to pay for it by raising the gas tax and electric vehicle charging fees, along with PPP, as I addressed in my last video. PPP is the public-private partnership. That's where you have private business that runs some of the infrastructure stuff. That would be basically toll bridges, toll roads, that kind of thing. The need for two bills is absolute proof that this is not a bipartisan bill at all. Of the bipartisan bill, it's a total of $973 billion over 5 years. And out of that, it's only $579 billion in actually new funding. The rest of it was going to be funded anyway. And so out of that $973 billion, it's only $579 billion of new funding over 5 years. And so let's break it down. You have, I did a video a while back on Joe Manchin being the sleazy politician that he is. He was talking to a group of billionaires, trying to impress them to push Republicans to support the January 6th Commission so he could claim that bipartisanship works, so he had something to argue against the progressives. And here you have Biden, this group of Democrats, which obviously includes Manchin, obviously includes Sinema, who are wanting to say, look, bipartisanship, we reached an agreement, we're going to do this infrastructure, we both want infrastructure, we want to help America. And it's not really bipartisan, because all the Democrats did in the bipartisan bill was accept what the Republicans said they would offer. They're like, this is all we will do. And Democrats said, okay, let's sign that. It's bipartisan. It's not bipartisan if you're conceding 100% to what the other guy says he's only willing to do. the Republicans have been doing two things, basically. One, trying to bide time, trying to make it take longer and longer to get this done. They're coming up on their July 4th recess in Congress. And when they come back, they're going to have a limited amount of time to get something else done. And then there's the budget looming over us that's going to come due by the end of September. They've got to pass. And so you have the question, you have progressives who have been saying, just do a reconciliation bill and get all of the infrastructure in place. And it's vital because with the infrastructure bill, you can put things in place that are going to take place in the future. That way, if Republicans gain control of the House and or the Senate in 2022, gain control of the White House in 2024, there will be provisions in that stretch out to 2025. So we're covered till 2025, even if, for whatever reason, we become dumb in this country and vote Republicans back in power. But honestly, for Republicans to take control of the House or the Senate, one of the chambers of Congress, it's highly likely. I think it's extremely likely Republicans will win both houses in the midterms because that's typical. You typically have the party that's not in power win significantly in the midterms in congressional races. And that's what we're coming up on here is congressional races in the midterms. And so you have this bipartisan group of people that were getting together to discuss infrastructure. And Republicans said, this is all we're willing to do. Democrats conceded. And I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt whatsoever, Republicans knew the Democrat plan was we will agree to the bipartisan part, and then we're going to push a reconciliation bill through that does the rest of the infrastructure. My belief, I have absolutely no proof of this, is that Republicans wanted a deal where they get a win, Democrats get a much smaller win than they wanted, and both sides can claim victory. And so with the bipartisan bill, Republicans can tell their supporters that we put a line in the sand, this is what we were willing to offer on infrastructure, and Democrats had to concede to it because we're great. And Democrats could then go through, pass their reconciliation part, put that through, and tell their voters, look, we did what we said we were going to do on infrastructure. We got part of it with the bipartisan plan, we got part of it with the reconciliation, and then Republicans could just bash the Democrats over the head for overspending on the reconciliation. Republicans could then attack Democrats on the reconciliation part. And so I have no doubt there was a plan. I don't know if Biden announced the marrying of the two bills together. I don't know if that was not intended and Republicans were legitimately upset, and it was just one of those gaffes Biden does where this is the plan. We announced the bipartisan bill. Everybody gets a win. Democrats are going to push their reconciliation part through, and then we're going to complain about it. You know, I mean, this is the kind of things they get together in back rooms and wheel and deal in Washington. And I don't know if Biden announcing publicly that this is not all we're doing. We're going to do the bipartisan bill, then we're going to do a reconciliation bill to do the rest of the infrastructure. That includes the child care provisions, the elder care provisions, things that are needed, desperately needed all over the country. And perhaps he gaffed it, and Republicans are like, whoa, he's blowing it out of the water. He wasn't supposed to do that. That could be the case, that Biden had a gaffe there and wasn't supposed to say that. But either way, What we need is a robust infrastructure package. We need it. Our infrastructure is crumbling apart. I mean, we just had that massive collapse of the condo in Florida in the last week or so. And they're still digging through the rubble on that. It was last week. And so we need the infrastructure. We've got to pass it. And right now, I would say the most likelihood thing is nothing passes. Nothing gets done. My feeling right now is that the likelihood is the bipartisan thing goes away, and you have people like Manchin and Sinema who will not agree to pass the reconciliation part, and so nothing gets done. And we end up with no infrastructure deal. And Biden's basically, his term is basically about over as far as legislation. I mean, there is a good chance next year Republicans get control of the House and the Senate. That happens in the midterms of a president's first term. The other party wins dominantly in House and Senate races. And we're running out of calendar days to get things done. I mean, when they come back from recess, they're going to have to start working on a budget because that has to be in place. If the budget doesn't get put in place, October 1st, the government shuts down. And we're stuck with that. So this needs to get done, and it needs to get done in a hurry. And it's looking like Republicans are backing out of the third part of the deal. I don't trust Manchin and Sinema to agree to a reconciliation piece. And then you have the pay-fors. You know, with the Democrats, they wanted to roll back some of the Trump-era tax cuts. They wanted to increase taxes on corporations. And the thing is, only slightly. I mean, the corporations' tax rate got cut from 35% to 21%. And the tax cuts on the wealthy, you know, they went from 39.6% down to 37% for the wealthiest people in the country. Biden wants to move it back up to 39.6% to pay for this stuff, which would be corporations and the wealthy in this country paying more in taxes to cover the infrastructure stuff. Republicans, their plan is, as always, to put it on you and me. Their plan is increase the gas tax, put in a new tax for electric vehicle charging stations, to do the PPP, the public-private partnerships, which would end up with toll roads and toll bridges, which you and I will pay. And there's a lot of bad with that, because when you have the public-private partnerships, you end up with no regulation requiring that the private companies upkeep the infrastructure to a certain level or higher. You have no incentive for them to maintain or upkeep the roads, the bridges, whatever, because the more they put into it, the less they're making profit out of it. And I mean, once you have a toll road, it's a toll road forever. That private business is going to look to make billions over time from it. And and along with that, you also have stuff that is put in place to protect the businesses, like the roads surrounding it can't be improved to where they're better than the toll road, because that's unfair competition. You have all kinds of things put in place to protect the private businesses that make the toll roads, the toll bridges. And it sucks if you get stuck and you're in a situation where now your commute to work costs $9 to go to work, $9 to come home because of fucking toll roads. And that sucks. Toll roads, toll bridges. It's much better if we just use tax money and fund this infrastructure. I hate this idea of it needs to be private business, because private business for some reason does it, but no, they don't. No, they don't. What they're good at is squeezing money out of it, squeezing money out of you and me, squeezing money out of the government, So they make more money, but the utility's not any better. The roads aren't any better. The bridges aren't any better. They're not kept up as well, because there's no incentive for a private business that all they care about is profit. All they care about are shareholders. There's no incentive for them to improve the infrastructure that they're paying for. So the public-private partnerships, they don't work. Australia's figuring that out. You've got cities around this country who have figured that out, that it sucks. People who live in those areas where they have the toll roads and the toll bridges are realizing that it sucks, because that infrastructure doesn't get kept up with the way it should. And the roads around it don't, because the private businesses make sure that gets in there, that you can't keep the other roads better, because then that's unfair competition for us. It all needs to dilapidate and suck, so people have no choice but to pay us money for their sucky drive to work, to and from work. But that's where we're at. You know, the Biden administration, for whatever stupid reason, wanted to find bipartisanship any way he could, even if it was fall bipartisanship, where they're just agreeing to what Republicans are offering and calling it bipartisanship. That's not bipartisanship. It just isn't. And the fact that in order to get robust infrastructure done that we need, 2 bills are required, is proof that it is not bipartisan. It is not bipartisanship. It is giving the Republicans a win and then giving Democrats a win, which is they pass the rest of the infrastructure package. If anything gets passed, it will be the bipartisan bill by itself. I can see Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, and Joe Biden saying, well, let's just scrap the reconciliation bill, pass the bipartisan bill, then Republicans will be back on board. And the thing is, they didn't even have 10 Republicans for this bipartisan bill. The most I saw was 5. They had 5 Republicans in the Senate who were going to support it. They need 10 to pass it above the filibuster, because Mitch McConnell's already said he's going to filibuster everything. He's going to try to not allow Biden to pass anything. And so it will get filibustered by the Republicans. They need 60 votes. They need 10 Republicans. They have 5 at my last count. And now it's less than that, because the Republicans are dropping off. They might have had up to 7, but now they're well below 5. And I don't think we're passing it. If we pass anything, it's going to be the bipartisan bill, because that gives billions of dollars to corporations. It's another big cash grab for the wealthy corporations, for the wealthy individuals in the country. It screws you and I, because we end up with either higher gas taxes, higher electric vehicle charging station taxes, along with toll roads and toll bridges, possibly all of those things combined. Meanwhile, we get a road that lasts until it starts falling apart, and then the private businesses aren't going to do any upkeep. They're going to do the minimal upkeep. And hopefully, and the Democrats, the progressives in the House have said, without the reconciliation bill, they're not passing the bipartisan bill. Hopefully they stick to that. And put it on Biden, because Biden is going to be seen largely as a failure if he doesn't pass this. I mean, he's already got to a point where there's no gun legislation going to pass. There's no voting rights legislation going to pass. He needs to pass the budget when they come back from the recess, and he's got this. And that's probably all he will accomplish. He'll either get this done and a budget done before the midterms, or he'll get a budget done, not get this done, and then that's it. That's all he's done. I mean, he's passed the COVID stimulus. He's done some rollbacks of Trump's horrible environmental legislation. But outside of that, Biden has been largely a failure so far, because he counted on the good faith of Republicans, and Republicans are showing him that there is no good faith in the Republican Party. And that's where we're at. We're stuck. We need infrastructure. Severely, we need it. And you don't have people willing to pass it. You don't have Biden willing to put his thumb on Manchin and Sinema and tell them they've got to vote in line to get the stuff passed through reconciliation. If he's if Biden is not going to get control of his caucus and to get this legislation through, he's not going to get it through. I mean, there's a slight possibility he gets the bipartisan infrastructure bill passed. It's a slight upgrade from where we're at, that's it. But it includes nothing as far as child care help. It includes nothing as far as elder care help, something we desperately need in this country. And Biden will most likely be seen as a failure if he can't get it done. We're most likely headed towards a change in control of the House and the Senate in 2022. And at that point, Biden's 4 years are over. If Republicans get control of the House and the Senate, the only thing Biden will be able to pass is whatever Republicans dictate to him, which would be more tax cuts for corporations and wealthy people. Because I don't see them in any way negotiating with Biden. They had the chance here, and they didn't do it. They said, this is all we're willing to do. I mean, in the past, infrastructure was both parties wanted to get it done. Now it's a matter of Republicans don't want to give Biden too much success, because that could transcend into electoral victories in 2022, 2024. And so we're stuck. And hopefully Biden gets back on track, gets control of his caucus, and gets at least the reconciliation part done. I mean, I don't know how many Republicans are going to backtrack the way they have from this bipartisan infrastructure bill and go back to it. But I would say the most likely thing is nothing gets passed. If something gets passed, most likely it will be the bipartisan bill. And I would be thrilled if Democrats got their stuff together and passed a reconciliation bill that included the robust infrastructure that Bernie Sanders is talking about. And I mean, I make no qualms. I am a Bernie Sanders supporter. I like his legislative priority because it puts people ahead of businesses and the wealthy. Whereas with the corporate Democrats and all of the Republicans, the corporations and the wealthy are all they really care about, because that's their donors. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, and happy 4th of July weekend. Please, if you like these videos, give me a like. If you're watching and you've not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And thank you very much. Have a good weekend.